Hey guys, this is Alex, and welcome to the Two Dudes, Brews and Reviews podcast. Today, we're talking about John Carpenter's classic 1982 film, The Thing, a standalone movie that definitely was not remade in 2011. We also talk about our overall relationship with horror movies, and Austin details a night where he was harassed by some drunk guys while out delivering pizza. If you like what you hear, consider subscribing to the podcast and maybe even tell your friends about us. With that being said, we hope you enjoy the show.
Yeah, bro. What's been happening?
Well, I got the second COVID vaccine shot.
Your lymph nodes swell up.
No.
Mine did bad.
I felt mostly fine. I know most people get really sick from that second shot. And Olivia, my wife, was fucking destroyed for 3 or 4 days.
Really?
I was just tired. I had trouble sleeping, actually, for a couple of days after that. And when I did get to sleep, I couldn't get up in the morning. Like, I had a whole lot of trouble getting out of bed. That's really it, though.
Well, I wanted to tell you about a story, like a little something that happened to me last night. It was super strange. So, like, my last delivery of the night was out to Mutt's, and the delivery was to, it's 4 dudes sitting at one of the tables next to the bar. And, you know, our friend Ryan was working and everything. It looked like these dudes were in the Army because they might, be there at the Army Reserve Station that's right next to the bar. Perfect place to put it, right next to the bar. You know, the boys got to go out. I deliver the pizza to these guys, tell them have a good night. And on my way out, this guy at the bar top, right next to the door, he said, hey, whoa. Everybody's super fucked up. It was 1 o'clock in the morning. And he said, stand there. And I was so caught off guard. And he says, turn around, let me bounce this quarter off that ass. And I said, no, fuck you, man. and I had waved to Ryan already and everything and said, hey. But then this guy at the other side of the bar, as I'm trying to get out of the leave, says, no, hey, come over here. Kept waving me over. And Ryan's like, Austin. I went over there and he goes, here, take this. And he gave me a $50 bill. And I said, what for? And he goes, for dealing with all of our shit. And I said, okay. Thanks.
What the fuck?
It was so strange.
That seems worth it to me.
It was awesome. Yeah. I was like, I'll get fucking catcalled in the bar for $50. Yeah, fuck yeah. It was so weird, though. It was so strange.
He wanted to bounce a quarter
off my ass.
Why?
I don't know.
To see how tight the pants were or something?
Dude, because I guess I must have a big ass. I mean, I'm not stupid. I know I have a nice looking rear end, but god damn, it was so aggressive. I was like, god damn, man. Other than that, big chillin'. People want to bounce quarters off my ass. Trying to get engaged. That'll be fun. Won't talk about it too much on the podcast, but
it's getting real, man.
It's getting real fast. I'm getting old. It's just so strange. It's fucking zooming by.
2021's almost over already.
Yeah.
I feel like I've barely even been conscious of this year.
Because a majority of the year was still locked up. You know, we didn't really go anywhere. And we've just now been back to concerts and stuff recently. I'm going to the movie theater for the first time in 2 years almost. This weekend to go see Dune. Dude, I love going to the movies. That's my favorite date night, you know? Going to the movies with my girlfriend, getting a bite to eat. I'm hyped.
I love going to a movie at a packed 9 o'clock showing or something where everybody kind of interacts with the movie. People scream and laugh. That's clap. Always fun.
It's a shared experience, but you don't know anybody or make contact with people, but everybody knows what the fuck's going on. It's like concert, you know? It's like a concert.
Dude, I've been watching nothing but horror movies since it's October and stuff. I'm not a big horror guy, and I know that sounds kind of funny considering the topic of today's episode. I watched It Chapter 1 and 2.
I hate the first one.
They're so middle of the road to me. The second one felt like a Marvel movie, but horror. Where it's
wait, what?
Horror movies shouldn't be made on $150 million budgets. You know what I mean? It should be in that $30 million or below mark. They're getting chased by a giant CGI spider with a clown head at the end. And I'm this is so stupid.
Horror movies, not a big fan. Actually, this movie felt more like a mystery than a horror movie, which is something that I digested well. I know you had mentioned that your wife couldn't stomach some of the parts of this movie. And I barely could, especially like that first autopsy and stuff. I was like, oh.
This movie is fucking disgusting.
Yeah, it's nasty.
Probably one of the nastiest movies I've ever seen. Like, if not the nastiest.
Is it like more gory than Saw?
Yeah, probably.
Really? I've never seen any of the Saw films.
I've seen like the first 5.
I've done that on purpose. I remember in my adolescence, like all my friends loved horror movies, and like a lot of my friend group would like go see them as a friend group, like together in theaters and stuff. And I'm like, they're just stupid and like boring to me. Like I remember back then, like I liked The Life of Pi and like The Secret Life of Walter Mitty and like Good Will Hunting, and they were like, bro, we're gonna go see Ouija, like the Ouija board movie in theaters. And I went with them, and I was like, this is so dumb. I'm like, this is one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And they're all like, that was so good. And I was like, am I the only one awake here? Like, what's going on?
I don't think it's that horror movies just suck, but like they're made with like no care sometimes.
Yeah.
It's like, we'll make this movie on like a $2 million budget. We'll get an easy $50 million at the box office. Cheap is the key word. The scares are cheap. The jump scares, the fucking
plot sucks.
Yeah.
It's always like some weird tie-in to like fucking a video or like a past exorcism or past demon that looms over the town.
There's like some classics that I like a lot. I recently watched the original Halloween, and like I think that's like a perfect movie for at least what it is, like the slasher thing.
I love the Scream movies.
Scream 1.
Scream is so good.
I watched Scream 2 the other night, actually.
Is that the one where he gets stabbed through the stall because he puts his ear up to the stall?
Yeah, it's Omar Epps. Gets stabbed in the head. And his girlfriend's Jada Pinkett Smith.
Yeah.
I didn't like that one as much as the first one.
No, the first one's
The first one's like a classic, dude. It's the mystery's so good.
You cut me real deep, man. Oh my god! After I saw that for the first time, we would just say that around the house. Go, feel a little woozy, man. Like, it's so funny. It's such like a meme quality line.
Oh yeah, that movie knew what it was doing. It was like
Shaggy, dude.
It's like straight up satire at times.
Yeah.
Before we hop into the thing, Austin, what are we drinking today?
Yeah, I don't want to forget. We're drinking Rheingeist. It looks like some sort of like limited edition special run. We're doing it's a nitro stout. It's called Penguin, and it is a blonde stout, and it's got cacao and coffee. It's very good. I think it's in collaboration with like maybe a local coffee company. Maybe, I'm not sure. Three Weavers, it looks like.
I'm guessing so. I've never been to. If it's even a coffee shop, it might just be like a company that produces espresso beans and stuff. It's really good.
Yeah, it's it looks like an amber ale. We mentioned that because it's a blonde stout. It's not super dry. It's just like really velvety and smooth. It's like a mild, light to medium body coffee. Like you can barely taste the alcohol in this. At least to me, like I think it's so smooth. It like is very uniform.
It really does just taste like straight up coffee with like carbonation and stuff.
It reminds me of like, I know you've probably never had it, but like it reminds me of like Ethiopian Yirgacheffe coffee. It's like
the single origin stuff.
Very fruity, very like got a lot of fruity notes in it and shit. This is what this tastes like.
Look at us, we're sophisticated. Notes.
Look at us, the luxurious spoiled white man talking about our fucking coffee notes. Yeah, it's really good. Not what I expected, to be quite honest with you.
Me either. Usually with a stout, you like pick it up and hold it to the light, and you like can't even see through it.
It's like window tint, bro.
This stuff's like red.
It's really good though. It's 7%, and you would not know. Damn, it's 7%. We gotta be careful. We're on a stout kick. We're moving into the fall and the winter seasons. But yeah, man, I'm hyped. My like relationship with horror movies, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of horror. The only like good classic horror film that I can like really draw on is like Scream. I've seen a few of the Nightmare on Elm Streets, and I recently watched Alien for the first time. That movie is super tasteful. Obviously, it's a beloved classic film.
It's a great movie,
but it's technically like a sci-fi horror film. But like it sells it to me. It's not like playing on like horror tropes and shit. And this movie like doesn't really play on any tropes either. It's kind of like a whodunit film.
Yeah.
Reminds me of kind of like Scream, even like Knives Out in a way of like people trying to figure out who's the bad guy, creating that tension throughout the whole film. We might get to like a resolution at the end. Like we'll get there. We'll talk about it. But
oh yeah.
Yeah, it's really obscure as far as like horror movie goes. Super weird plot. Like if you want to like give a little synopsis to kind of lay down like why it's different.
So this movie takes place in 1982, which is the year the film came out, in Antarctica, one of the most isolated, lonely places on the planet. It's about a bunch of researchers in Antarctica. One day, a Norwegian helicopter from a neighboring camp a couple miles down shows up, and they're chasing
A dog.
a fucking dog.
Like looks like a Siberian husky.
These dudes are shooting at it. They get out of the helicopter, and one dude even throws a grenade and accidentally blows himself up. But we come to find out that the dog is not what it seems. I think it's kind of apparent before it even like shows its true form. It don't act like a dog.
Super strange.
But we find out that the dog is actually some kind of extraterrestrial alien from another planet.
That crash landed on Antarctica.
And like the movie kind of spoon feeds us information as it goes. Like we learn more about the creature itself. We learn that it can replicate any living organism perfectly, including humans. And then, like you said, the whodunit aspect. It turns into a game of who's the thing and who's not the thing. The paranoia that comes with that.
Remember, like when the movie first came on, I'm like, why are they shooting at this dog?
My wife was saying the same thing.
Yeah. Well, I didn't say it. I thought me being a man, when I watch a film, I have internal dialogue.
My wife wouldn't stop talking the first time I watched this. I had to watch it 2 other times by myself to really take it in.
But yeah. Yeah, you think to yourself, like, why are they shooting at this dog? Why is it such a big deal? And then, like, the officer or, like, a marshal, like, in the research camp, like, pretty much the only one that's, like, I guess that holds a gun probably. He ends up shooting the guy that's shooting at the dog. I think the guy accidentally grazes one of the researchers. He hits him in the leg or something, right?
Yep.
And so, yeah, going into it, you're like, what the fuck? And I think shortly after that, like, it's kind of like, we like don't pay attention to the characters when we pay more attention to like the dog, like the shot, like kind of like stays still in the dog, and the dog is like observant of the humans, and it's like, that's not how a dog acts.
No. It kind of acts like a dog when it first shows up in camp because it like goes to the humans for protection, like hops up on him, licks his face. But once they go inside and the dog feels comfortable, it's stalking these people kind of.
You get to see that like the dog. It's like we get introduced to our characters and stuff, and like obviously Kurt Russell and like the rest of the cast, and the shot is pretty much they always end up focusing on the dog because the dog will like walk through the frame. There's one particular scene where it's like that evening or something. The dog is like walking down through the hallways of like this compound, and like you get to see one of the humans. We don't know what character it is. It's just his silhouette like cast shadowed on a wall, and the dog like goes into that room. And it's like super ominous. Gives you that feeling of like, wait, something's going on here. Like starts planting those seeds of doubt and like curiosity because like you're drawing back to like, why are they shooting at the dog? Why is the camera focused on the dog? And now why is this dog going into this room all menacing looking? It like helps sow those seeds of doubt as a viewer.
You know, John Carpenter, for the silhouette guy, casted an entirely different actor, so you couldn't like pinpoint who it is. His silhouette, he might be wearing a hat, he might have curly hair. You honestly can't tell, really.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about that because like we'll get down to like the who was the first infected. I want to talk about like those conspiracies and stuff. I did a little bit of research and I think I know who it is, or like I think if we like connect the dots, like it might be right, but who knows? It's just it's a film, but. Yeah, like all of our characters are like drunks, basically. Like they all drink, especially our main character, Kurt Russell, is like, I don't think there is a scene without him drinking alcohol in it almost. Like it seems like anytime he's in leisure activity, he's like drinking.
Yep.
And why the fuck does he pour alcohol all over like the computer? I'm like, that was so aggressive. Like
the chess wizard?
Yeah. He was like... Instead of being like, okay, I'm done, he's like, yeah, fuck this. I'm pouring alcohol in the fucking motherboard.
It's something that'll come up later, but I think it's an important character moment, and it kind of foretells the ending of the movie. I don't know if you caught that or not, but we'll get into that as soon as, like, whenever we get there. But yeah, it's a funny character moment, because it's the first time you see him, really, aside from, like, the chaos when the Norwegians show up.
Yeah.
After that, stuff calms down, and you get, like, the camp interacting with each other. And this is a really big cast to like keep track of. I think there's 12 guys there maybe. The good thing about the film is they all kind of have their own characterization. Like Kurt Russell is the isolated guy. He has his own guard shack. Yeah. He's off on his own, drinking, playing chess wizard and losing. The stoner guy, who I really love, actually. I think his name's Palmer. Yeah. The guy with like the he's wearing like a death metal denim jacket with like the patches on it. And
is he the guy with the glasses? Does he wear like the sunglasses?
No, that's the radio guy. That's Windows.
The guy. Are you talking about the guy with the curly hair?
It's the other guy with the curly hair. Yeah. He's the one that offers to pilot them to the Norwegian base. Yeah. And they're like, "Fuck no!" And he says something like, "Oh, thanks for thinking about it."
Yeah.
Which this movie's kind of funny sometimes.
Yeah. And you get to even see like the characters interact like how they would like in a compound. They kind of create like one of the characters is like somebody left their dirty ass underwear in like the sink or something, and like he tosses it on like a pinball machine or something.
Yeah,
I guess like it's to be expected of how like a large group of men would act if they were like all in one big house and like they're all tasked with certain duties. Like one guy's a cook, one guy's a doctor, one guy's basically the cop.
Yeah, they all have like their own roles. And I think it's kind of important that they seem like friends, but they seem like friends that have been stuck together for too long because everybody in this movie is like exhausted. And I don't think they tell you how long they've been there.
No.
At that base.
But like the point of isolation and like despair has already set in. It's like, you know, if you were like they're working like a man's job, like you're away from women, you're away from friends and family, like even though they may be friends, it's like almost like forced friendship because you're on the job with these people. You have to learn to get along.
They're probably a little sick of each other because even when the one scientist comes up to Kurt Russell, it's a little later on, but he says like, "Come on, Mac, we need to go out and talk outside." And he says like, "I'm tired of talking. I just want to go to my shack and get drunk." Like that's pretty much everybody's emotion in this movie.
Also, the scene, the dog, when he comes underneath the table, that scene in particular. Do you notice like the camaraderie is super low? Like the mood of the room is super low. Like everybody's like just going through the motions. A couple guys are playing cards. A couple guys are playing pool. There's no like laughing.
They're not even talking.
No. It's like almost a silent scene. Like all you can hear is the balls breaking and like people laying down cards and like shuffling poker chips and shit. And it's like just a small little thing like that. Like it's just show like these guys like while they may be interacting, they aren't that close. No. Which plays into like helps fuel like the distrust aspect of the film. Mm-hmm. But like when the dog comes underneath the table, we kind of like get after we like have established that the dog is in the compound that isn't really a dog. You kind of get to know everybody, and then the dog, they have to put the dog up with the other dogs. This is where we get introduced to the Thing, and I wasn't expecting it to happen like this. I thought it was going to be like
a slow reveal,
a person. You know, the dog would infect a person and like a person would show like the antagonist part of the film.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
But like it's straight up just shown to everyone right here, like in the first, it's like 20, 30 minutes in. Because we've already went to like the Norwegian compound where like the helicopter was from and like they were trying to figure out why the fuck that guy came shooting at the dog. Like they all thought they went mad or something. Like, and they're like, they can like sympathize with that because they're all tired and exhausted and wore out. Like they're like, yeah, well, enough time, 5 minutes out here is enough to make a man go mad.
Just look at Palmer. He was like this on day one.
They go in, and this scene, the compound scene was like when they went to the Norwegian camp, it's like the whole fucking building is like torn apart. Some of it's still smoldering. And this is like foreshadowing what's to come, of course. And I knew that was going to come eventually. Because I've seen the end of this movie before outside the context of the film, like as far as like analysis goes. But yeah, like this guy's like neck and wrist are slit open and like the building's blown in half, like holes in the walls.
They find a big block of ice that's like been thawed out and like something was clearly in there. And they find the corpse of some kind of burnt up creature that like, it looks like 2 or 3 humans like strung together. It's got 2 heads. It's nasty.
Yeah, and the face is like split in half and stuff.
Like it was like mid-transformation before it happened.
So they bring back that autopsy, right? And I think this happens before like the dog goes underneath the table and stuff.
Yeah.
But like we're kind of shown that like something's not right here. And then it's kind of apparent that like the dog is playing a role at this point.
It's watching them when they're doing the autopsy because it cuts to it and it's like in the doorway just staring a hole through these people.
Yeah, like we get like introduced to like our doctor character, and he's like the autopsy guy, and we're talking about like,
dude, Mr. Diabetes himself, Wilford Brimley.
I didn't even notice that.
You know that's him?
Because he has a mustache in that video.
Oh yeah, he's shaved in this movie.
Diabetes,
dude.
Diabetes.
He's fucking great in this, honestly.
Yeah, and he like does the autopsy, and he's like pulling out like human organs and stuff, like heart, lung, and like that shit was disgusting.
Oh, dude, it's so grotesque.
I like had to like do the
look
pull
away,
like just listen to the sound of like mush and moving around. That was nasty.
Well, they find out that all the organs are human, completely human, indistinguishable from a regular autopsy.
Yeah.
You know, except for the double head and
the fact that like limbs are out and like bent around and weird shit. I'm not a big fan of like body horror at all.
I'm not either. This movie was criticized really heavily when it came out because you know, Siskel and Ebert, like they had a review show. I don't know if it was on TV or not back in the day. You never heard of Roger Ebert?
No.
Like the big movie critic from the 80s and 90s? They famously, I think they said this was like the quintessential moron movie of the 80s.
What?
Like, this was hated when it came out.
Yeah, I heard.
And I think the gore, like the
It's
practical
probably
effects.
super off-putting for like the time.
Oh, yeah. We haven't really gotten into it, but yeah, the movie was hated when it came out. This came out in the summer, for one. That's the first big no-no. It's a movie about Antarctica. It came out like 2 weeks after E.T. did, and like, and everybody loves E.T.,
Yeah.
including me. Like, I
I've not seen that in so long.
Oh, it's great. It's a great movie. But like that movie, you know, E.T., lovable, cute, friendly alien, and then this comes out 2 weeks later, and it's this big, gory, like, you know, the alien is Satan,
Devil.
basically. Damn, they got it so wrong.
Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of horror, but like I actually really enjoyed a lot of this film. I can tell it's practical effects. Like, I'm not stupid. Like, it's definitely dated in that aspect, but like I still enjoy the effort and like
It'll still gross you out.
Oh yeah.
It's still so fucking gross.
Oh, nasty. And especially like the dog transformation scene.
Oh,
Like,
dude,
it looks like a giant body mass and like the dog's face peeling back and stuff.
Oh, dude. We're going to have to go into detail from like the beginning of the scene.
Piss break.
Talk about this this fucking grotesque way to mutilate a dog.
The dog kennel scene.
Shoo.
I don't know if I'm going out on a limb when I say this, but I think this might be one of my new favorite movie scenes of all time. Like the entire sequence.
There's nothing wrong about that.
I just feel like from beginning to end, it's just built so
It's a great
masterfully.
It's a great reveal. You know, we were talking about the dog goes on the table. You're like, come on, you got to put this fucking dog up with the rest of them. I guess like one guy that might be in charge of the dogs. I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
It's Clark, the big grizzly flannel guy.
Yeah. You know, he puts the dogs up. The dog doesn't even act like the dog. And it's like, so you know shit's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's coming in and he like just sits down like in the middle of the room.
It's got this like 1,000-yard stare like out into nothing. It's not looking at the other dogs. It's not looking back at Clark.
Sniff the dog. They don't even sniff it. Like,
I feel like I gotta praise the dog acting.
Yeah, I was thinking about it the whole time. You know, I'm like, because you know they have trainers work with animals for movies and stuff, and it's like they train this dog really well because the dog acts so undog-like, and I'm sure it has something to do with like the way it's shot and like the direction of the camera and like
they probably had to cut it strategically in case a dog did something it wasn't supposed to. Because there's like 6 dogs in the scene, and most of them are laying down. They don't get up. They don't react to the dog coming in until it's been sitting there for a few seconds. But yeah, this is the part of the movie where shit gets real really fucking quick.
The dog like peels its fucking face into 4. It looks like the demigorgs off of
like Stranger Things.
Yeah.
It blossoms like a flower, and its skull falls out, and like the tongue's still in there. Oh, dude, it's like stomach churning.
It's disgusting.
And like that's not even the end of it.
No,
because like these tentacles start coming out of its torso, and it's making this rattlesnake kind of sound. The reaction shots from the other dogs really make the scene because they're freaking out.
They're snarling. One of the dogs like bites the fucking like tries to bite the chicken wire like oh my god, like trying to peel itself out of there. Like the smart one, a smart dog trying to get out.
Yep. And you made a good point about the whole everybody discovers the thing at the same time. Because in other movies, yeah, like it'd be one person. They would see something and they go back and say, "Hey, I just saw something," and they go back to the kennel and
dog's gone.
It'd all be normal, or yeah, exactly. And it'd be like, "Oh, you're crazy, dude."
Yeah.
No, everybody's let in on the secret right away. Makes it so much better. Everybody's reaction, like I think Kurt Russell is like in the kitchen or something from far away, and he hears the commotion, so he pulls the fire alarm. He doesn't fuck around. He doesn't go and check it out by himself. It's like he gets everybody in there at the same time.
And like everybody's like, it's really late at night, so like some of the guys are already in bed, some of the guys were still playing pool and cards and shit. And like everybody comes together as a group here, so everybody sees the problem, like no one's left out. And I don't think at this point it's been established like they figure out what the thing is, because I think after this they go back and like the doctor reviews like some of the cells or whatever and all that. We'll get to that, but excuse me, fucking Miller High Life pregame gives you a good burp.
You call it Miller pregame?
Yeah,
it's a good way to put it. Yeah.
But yeah, everybody gets, and they bring like the flamethrower in already. Like I think they shoot at it and stuff, but like nothing happens. And they're like, "No, you need the fucking flamethrower. Go grab the flamethrower."
Well, they're shooting it, and like you can see patches of it come off, and like this green slime spews out of it. It's so nasty. But I love the line of dialogue where Bennings, the red-haired guy, he goes and gets Childs, and he's like, Max says to go get the flamethrower, and he says, "The what?" He says, "That's what he said, now move." Like, shit just amped up right away. Get the fucking flamethrower. I don't know what this thing is.
And I think Kurt Russell's character, he, McCready, he's already, right?
Yeah.
He's so isolated and, like, doesn't want to talk to anybody. We already know that he, like, prefers to, like, be away from everybody. And he might not have shared the information of, like, he noticed all, like, the kerosene and, like, everything at the other compound was on fire, right? So he already knows, and he's already figured out in his head that this thing's got to be burnt to shit. Because, like, even the body they picked up, like, they were trying to burn it. Yeah, so they fucking torched the shit out of this thing, and then, like, doesn't it, like...
It keeps transforming even more when they actually witness it. Because it looks like a dog with no fur or skin, but then, like, these arms come out of it,
like these like big bear claw looking arms like come up to the ceiling and stuff,
and it's like trying to crawl its way out of the room. And I was kind of confused because of the continuity of the shot. Like I thought that part of it had escaped, but that's not the case, because when Childs torches it, you see it fall from the ceiling. So I was a little confused on that on my first viewing. Its transformation, its like chest opens up and this weird flower heart comes out, and like it's got eyeballs all over it. It's one of the nastiest things, man, I've ever fucking seen.
It's disgusting. It's like Satan spawn, dude. And like I don't know if you ever played you remember the game Bloodborne?
I've played it briefly. Yeah.
Just like stuff like this reminds me of games like Dark Souls, and like specifically Bloodborne, because Bloodborne was all about like religious, like transformational, like weird shit, like kind of like werewolf and vampiric shit. It was super weird, but it just reminded me of that because like all like this body mutilation and stuff, and like almost looks like a failed experiment, of like someone trying to breed a human dog thing. It's super disgusting. But did they kill it? Did they burn it? Is that what happens? Because it doesn't escape, right?
No,
they torch it out of the ceiling.
They torch it on site. The thing gets out a different way, as we find out later.
Because we got to reference back to the dog went into the room alone with another human.
And there's also that corpse they brought back that wasn't fully burned from the other camp. By the way, one last comment before we leave the kennel scene. You know how I always say that I laugh at things when they're violent in movies?
Did you not laugh?
No, not at all. I've seen people stabbed, burnt, drowned, beat to death, decapitated, all sorts of shit, riddled with bullets, arrows, knives, and I can laugh at stuff like that because it's...
so over the top.
Yeah, and this movie's over the top too, but the thing itself is so nasty and horrifying that like even on my third viewing, when this scene comes up, there's like this pit in my heart that is rejecting it. It's like humans shouldn't see this, and it's kind of glorious. I love it, but it absolutely is repulsive to me.
Just to preface, you're not insane for laughing at violence. You laugh at things because you laugh at the unexpected. Like one of the biggest things. Eric Andre, for example, I don't know if I've mentioned him on the podcast before, but like the reason why it's so funny is because it's so absurd.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And like you don't realize that you're laughing, but you just are because things are just happening that like you can't believe are happening. Like I bet you laugh at like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood where he bashes her head in. Like I bet you like
any Tarantino
that
movie.
shit's hilarious. Yeah.
It's so funny.
He just cut that bitch's head off and killed Bill. Like, you know what I mean?
I also love how after they torch the thing, there's no like celebration of winning. Everybody's so disturbed by what they just saw. The camera pans across everybody's reaction, and everybody just looks like their world's been turned upside down. It's a great little detail.
Could you imagine though, like seeing that? Ugh.
It's like your reality has changed for you now. Like this shit exists and it's out there.
And this is when they all come together and go back to the autopsy body. And they realize that they're dealing with something a little bit different here. And I think they already knew that. There's almost like this sense of like out of sight, out of mind kind of thing. Like they all like are just trying to go back to like the normal, hours of operation of the compound and just like forget that like they've found this giant fucking disgusting mutilated body.
Wilford Brimley's character is kind of the main brain behind like the exposition. Like he's the one that finds out like, okay, well this thing was trying to absorb the other dogs to like, I don't know, like get bigger or be stronger. I don't know. It was already a dog, so why would it absorb the other ones?
Maybe, it would have infected the other dogs and there would just been more things. They would have all been dogs.
One of my favorite things about the movie is the mythology of the thing itself isn't explained that much. It's not over-explained because it's only what they can infer from like scientific analysis.
And they find like the old tapes and stuff from the other camp, from the Norwegian camp, and like they play them back and like are trying to figure out like, okay, they must have found this thing. And then like, they actually went back to the site and like saw like the giant ship and stuff. And like, can I comment on this?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's like a matte painting.
Yep.
And like
very 80s.
Yeah. And like you can tell so much because like they're on like a green screen basically. I'm like, fucking limitation of the time, man.
Did you watch the 4K or like the HD remaster?
I would assume so. I bought it on Vudu and I bought like the Ultra HD version, but I monitor that I watched it on goes up to HD. It's like 1440p. So I can only watch it in like high definition, but I didn't watch like a 4K remaster. Whatever that file they use on Vudu, that's what I got to see.
It was probably like the most up-to-date version that you could get.
It's probably like what's on the Blu-ray,
I watched the DVD version. I think that was released in like the 90s.
Oh my god.
So the matte painting
was fuzzy.
The matte painting stuff wasn't as obvious to me, even when I watched it on like the big flat screen. Maybe for the better for me.
That's what I said. That's what I texted you. You said I watched it like a DVD copy, and I'm like, that's probably a good thing. One of the things with Alien, if you watch like a 4K remaster, it's apparent the tricks they used back then. Because
kind of
like
breaks the magic.
The ship is like a matte painting and stuff. Like all these things are like, like they're, Star Wars, for example, like the OG Star Wars, like those are all models that they used and like tracked through space and stuff. Like, so some of that magic works when you watch it in like that original format. But like when I watch it in HD, I'm like, oh no, that does not look okay.
I knew that I had texted you after I watched it the first time, and I said, I'm going to rent the HD version because this one's not cutting it. But it's because the first time I watched it on a smaller TV in my bedroom, and my other viewings were out in the living room in the bigger TV. So it looked better, but still dated enough to where like it hid the magic. I thought the effects still really worked in that format, at least for me.
No, I bet. Like, I would have preferred to watch it. I should have watched it in standard definition, honestly. I need to think about that the next time we move through like older films and stuff. Like, I have all the definitions available to me when I buy them on Vudu and stuff because you get like standard definition, high definition, and like 4K. Some of the beauty is wrapped up in that older format. Some of the best music sounds super fuzzy because of the way it was recorded and stuff. Like some of the Beatles albums are like super buzzy and like they have like that warm vinyl sound to them. But once you get to like HD remasters, it's like it kind of removes some of that original magic that happens. You know? We need to talk about like they go back and like the doctor reviews like the cells and like recognizes that like the way this thing establishes a host, you know, it's almost like parasitical, will just like imitate it. Like they've learned that like the cells, it comes on like a cellular level, and like it will imitate other cells around it, and like so then that's how it makes like that perfect copy, you know. If you like really start to think about it, the movie can kind of fall apart in this way. It's like established that like eventually like they establish like, oh, like it must rip through clothes and stuff, right?
Because it can't replicate exterior accessories.
Has to replicate organic life. If you really think about it, like when like it takes over a host, like their like outfit kind of like stays the same, you know, like I don't know if like the guy does we
only see one example of it in real time. It's when the redhead guy gets it, and you see his ripped up clothes in the chair, but when he's running outside, he's wearing like a big coat, so you can't see what he's wearing underneath. I just assumed that the thing is smart enough to like, if you look at some of the shots in the movie, there's like coats hanging freely, like it could break into somebody's room, take a pair of long johns or something, you know. But it does get like that scene happens so fast that you wonder, well, how could it have done that quick?
Well, it also talks about like on a cellular level, like some people like they eventually establish like, you know, we should eat out of cans, we should like not share things. I don't know, they talk about not sharing drinks and stuff like that, and like everybody should eat out of cans, and like, but like then you got to look back to like the clothing that they throw on that pinball machine is like tattered and ripped, and like Kurt Russell's playing with it, and it's like, well, is like any sort of like matter
is there cells on that thing itself, because there's blood on it.
Yeah. So yeah, stuff like that happens.
It gets a little confusing.
It like kind of like a continuity issue. But like honestly, the movie happens so like fast and so dramatic. Like the movie is kind of overwhelming in that aspect where you're not really sitting there thinking about like those small little details until like maybe after the fact, or like unless you do research like I did, or you know try to look up videos and try to learn more about like the film franchise, and like, you know, because there was a remake of this movie, and
it's actually a prequel.
And like an extended universe, like comics and stuff.
I don't think John Carpenter even
signed off,
accepts that one. He considers the PS2 game that came out in the early 2000s to be a acceptable sequel to the movie, which is kind of weird.
Dude, PlayStation 2, fuck yeah.
I was actually watching videos of the game today. I was just curious because I'm like, is this some kind of weird cash grab? Apparently the game plays in with the mechanics of the movie, where you have to trust the other people of the team, and they could be the thing. And like you have like a trust meter. Sometimes you have to prove that you're not the thing by giving yourself a blood test. Kind of cool.
I can't wait to get to that scene.
Oh yeah.
Some of the things, like if you sit there and analyze them too, like they're kind of like little plot holes, but it doesn't really draw away from the movie at all. The movie actually leaves more questions unanswered, and it's not like distasteful or like draws away from the film itself. It doesn't give you so much information that you can be like, no, that doesn't work.
It's vague enough to work on its own.
So yeah, we find out like the cells replicate each other. Like the guy has like some sort of weird 16-bit computer like animation, you know, super dated. It's like an alien. It's
like a program that would never exist, where it's like saying 75% chance that... I'm like, what program is this? How does it infer that?
That's what they do in Alien too. How does like the program know, like, oh, this is what's going to happen?
It was an exposition, the program, basically.
Because they did the same thing in Alien, where like it's like this big computer room, and it's like talking about it's some sort of artificial AI that like figures out all these like complicated equations and stuff based on the data you put in, and it's like that's believable in that movie, but like in this movie, it's like, wait a second. This is 1982, not like, you know, 2200 or whatever the fuck Aliens set in.
Yeah. Like the text is only there to communicate to the audience what's happening.
Yeah. It must be just like a sign of the times kind of thing in the 80s where it's like this big, probably like a big tech boom.
Most people probably didn't have a computer at home, so they could get away with something like this. Like, oh, that's what computers do.
And that's evident in like in Alien, like the computer lines the walls. And like kind of like in this movie too, like when the doc is busting all the fucking communication stuff up, giant fucking panels on the wall, like all the communication stuff is like built into the compound. Like it's a room, like it's not just like a desktop computer, it's just a giant wall of fucking like electronics and communications and stuff.
Wilford Brimley, Blair, whatever his name is, learning this information leads him to have a mental breakdown where he starts destroying the chopper. Every time I say chopper, I want to say choppa, like fuck, like
get to the chopper,
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah,
but we don't know if Wilford Brimley was destroying all this equipment because he was worried that the rest of the group was gonna like become exposed to the rest of the world, like he's trying to protect humankind, or if he's the Thing and he's trying to isolate everybody and like take over more humans, because as we learn later on, it becomes more powerful by doing that.
Yeah. And like even like the computer AI is like human population takeover in 27,000 hours or whatever.
I love the scene where they like are all trying to console him and the calming down, and he's like he's shooting at people like his friends, and his delivery of the line where he starts to shoot at Childs and he says, "I'll kill you."
Yeah,
it's so fucking
top,
funny, dude. He had low blood sugar or something, His diabetes was acting up.
You know what's funny? I really enjoyed the way they like tackled him down because he ran out of ammo. Then he like uses the axe, and then like Kurt Russell, his character McCready, like picks up a table, like a big wooden table, and like has Wilford Brimley, like his character, like puts the axe through the table, like trying to swing at him, and then they push him down into a corner, and then like they fucking knock him out, like they beat him up and shit, like jump him.
It's one of the good things about the movie. The characters are smart.
Yeah, they're not stupid in horror movies. Like, oh my god, what's that like Allstate or like Geico commercial where they're like, you ever seen that? I know you don't watch TV, but I've only ever seen it from like watching football games or something with my family. It's an older commercial, but like it's talking about like don't be dumb in like people in horror movies, and they're like, he's like, okay, let's go hide behind those chainsaws, and they're like, well, why wouldn't we just get in that running car? And they're like, are you stupid? The killer is like shaking his head. Like, yeah, like people in horror movies are fucking stupid.
I think there's only one scene in this movie where like a character acts stupid and it leads to their detriment. It's later on. We'll get to it then. But for the most part, people act smart. They work in groups because they're working against a intelligent life form. Because the Thing itself is kind of smart. It only attacks you one-on-one.
It's like a chameleon, or like it only strikes in the dark kind of thing.
Yeah. Or if it's cornered and like people know of its existence, which we see in the blood test scene, which we'll get to.
One thing I wanted to talk about is like we didn't touch on the element of like the fact that they're in Antarctica. The temperature plays a big part. Like you can't go outside really late at night because it's so cold, like 40 below. It becomes like another aspect of like the elements of their environment working against them. There are times when they go outside and like after like it's already been established like the Thing has infected one of us, they burn up, everybody's outside. You kind of get like that infamous like they have like designated Kurt Russell, McCready's character, as like the leader, and they do that because one of the characters has another break and like goes in for like the rifles and shotguns and stuff.
It's the radio guy. Yeah. Windows.
He wears the sunglasses indoors.
I was kind of wondering what caused him to do this, because later on we find out that he's not infected, unless it's just the paranoia, like him trying to protect himself from everybody else.
I think he kind of has a break because like I think it's kind of in certain scenes like it kind of pans to him where he kind of like isn't like contributing dialogue and will like almost have like a fear and shock on his face, and he's like, you can tell like he's having like internal dialogue of like freaking out.
He's not cut out for this work.
No.
He's a radio guy.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's kind of a hippie too.
And he like sits on the job and shit. And like I remember like the marshal, he like comes and wakes him up one time, and he's like, we've been out here for like 6 weeks and no one's answered. How's anybody gonna answer now?
And he turns the static up on his headset, and it wakes him up, and he goes, ah. So funny. But like, he's even seen in the background of certain parts of the movie, like playing guitar on his own. Like he's a little bit of a hippie,
Just
maybe
trying
a
to chill,
pacifist.
bro.
Yeah.
And yeah, he like, they designated Kurt Russell as the character, as like the leader. He's like, maybe he's the sensible one. And like, even the marshal like gives up his gun. He's like, it shouldn't be me if you guys are that. Like, this is good character building, because like the guys are trying to establish trust with each other and be like, look, I'm not infected. Like, I'm one of you. Like, if you don't believe me, take this. We kind of have like these moments of like these guys trying to fend for themselves and like just try to create like charisma between the characters of being like, you can trust me. And like Kurt Russell, they designate him as like the leader. And, he says that, I know I'm human. He's like, if I wasn't, I'd kill you all like right now. And, one of us among us, God, Jesus Christ, that stupid fucking game.
This movie kind of feels like a game of Clue.
Yes.
In a way.
That's what I mean by like Knives Out. Like, it has like a mystery feel, like a whodunit.
The Thing cornered Bennings in the storage room. The mistrust. I think this second act of the movie is kind of where it's at its best to me. Because
you've established like all this like
lore, mythology.
And the elements that play a role into like the back half. Like, we're talking about like, the weather, the mistrust, like who might be infected, who already is infected, and like people that are already going crazy.
And it's like the horror kind of takes a backseat for a while now. It's a lot of character drama stuff. I mean, it's very easily my favorite scenes in the movie, where people are hanging out, but they don't trust each other. Kurt Russell's like in his little room, and he's like recording. He's like making, what's it called? Like little memos on his
he's like, if
tape
someone
recorder
finds this tape kind of thing.
It just builds really well. And of course, we haven't really talked about like the scene where Bennings is infected, because they learn that something's not dead if it still has cellular
activity.
Yes, you're better at enunciating things than I am. Bennings is infected by like the corpse, because he's by himself, and like you see tentacles come out from under the body bag. The scene where he's like, they show him being infected, where he's like wrapped up in the chair and like tentacles are going through him. It's so nasty.
Gross. I want to get to the part where the guy has a heart attack.
Oh yeah, Norris, the Irish-looking guy.
He like has a, in quotations, heart attack.
Well, I think he really has a heart attack, because it says the Thing can replicate a person perfectly. That guy might have already been on the brink of a heart attack.
Well, the way I perceived it, that's a good way to put it. But I thought like maybe like it's coming at him on a cellular level, because it looks like at times he's having like like a chest pain or something. And like, to me, like I almost thought like, oh, he's gonna like burst or something. So maybe it was like a process kind of thing, because we're talking about like cellular activity. Like maybe he got infected and like it's slowly working his way through his cells. Dude, this scene. Fucking, they're trying to like defibrillate, those things. They put him on his chest, like, clear. It fucking caves through his fucking body.
His chest opens up.
And they fucking cuts that guy's arms off from the elbow. Dude, it's so 80s. It's so perfect, though.
Oh, it's awesome.
Because guys like holding up his stumps like, Arr! Like.
They actually casted a guy with no arms.
Oh, my God.
To play, it's not the character, like the Doc Copper, but for that one shot, they got a guy with no arms to wear the mask of the actor.
Oh my gosh.
So they could get the reaction shot of him not having arms. A lot of work for literally a 2-second shot, if that.
Yeah.
Dude, old movie making.
That's classic, bro.
It's awesome.
No CGI. They really had to like jump through a bunch of hoops, and then like guy's fucking head, because like, oh my God,
this scene is so disgusting.
Because in the trailer, I actually watched the trailer for this like 2 or 3 times before watching the film. To like, I like watching old movie trailers like when they release, because it's like I want to see like what the era of trailer making was.
Yeah.
And this scene, it showed his head like pulling away from his chest and stuff, like bursting. Oh, it's so disgusting. Like it like stretches apart and like green. We're talking about like that green ooze popping out and shit. So disgusting. His head fucking pops off and it like becomes like this weird tentacle long neck and it's hanging in the air. It's so disgusting, man.
It's got like 4 stages of disgustingness in this. I mean, you have the chest opening up,
his head popping off,
the head popping off, the thing coming out of his chest with like his face on it.
And then they burn it up, right? Then they flamethrower it, and then his head fucking like
crawls away, and it grows spider legs. I just watched it chapter 2, and it actually steals this scene verbatim.
Really?
In that movie, there's a decapitated head in the movie that grows spider legs, and someone turns around and sees it and says, "You've got to be fucking kidding me," which is exactly what happens in The Thing.
It's a callback, man.
I know it's an
homage
or whatever, but it feels really cheap in it because it's a shit movie. And in this movie, it's awesome. It grows little tentacle eyes.
Yeah.
And it like makes noises. It's so nasty.
We forgot to mention that like when they burn up one of the crew members because he didn't have enough time to change in his hands.
He's got the claws.
Yeah. That's like the first time we get to hear like that audible sound. He like opens his mouth and like makes this like wail.
Like he can't verbalize like a human yet. He sounds like a Godzilla kind of.
Yeah.
I was thinking that, or like the Velociraptors from the old Jurassic Parks.
You know, like in Jurassic Park 3 where they call
the little bone that they blow through. Speaking of Jurassic Park, this is a real tie-in. The cinematographer for this movie, his name's like Dean Cundy, and he worked on a lot of famous movies. He did, Halloween, this Jurassic Park, and our favorite movie to bring up on this podcast, Jack and Jill.
What?
Yes.
What did he do in Jack and Jill?
He was a cinematographer.
Did he work on like the breast implants for Adam Sandler or something?
Just shots, I guess. I don't know.
Lord. The fucking Carnival Cruise fucking advertisement. Did he shoot that?
How the Mighty Fall, man. I don't know.
God damn. Or Royal Caribbean or whatever the fuck.
So that was, I have to bring up Jack and Jill every fucking episode.
I want to piss on that movie.
I'm going to have like a program segment on every podcast we do called Alex Somehow Brings Up Jack and Jill.
We need to have like an altar with like candlelight and like fucking that movie on like a pedestal because you worship that film somehow. That movie is so disgusting.
It lives in my head rent free.
It's such a parasite, dude.
But yeah, same cinematographer as this movie and like a ton of classics. So I don't know how that happened exactly. All of the paranoia, the distrust that we see going on, it all kind of builds to a head where we get the amazing blood test scene.
Yes.
And of course, like Kurt Russell. Kurt. I almost said Kurt Travis, like the singer from Dance Gavin Dance. I'm all over the place right now. I've only had 3 beers. What's
Enunciation,
happening?
goddammit, you can do it.
Yeah, I already have trouble enunciating things when I'm like sober. Kurt Russell. Nobody trusts him because his buddy, the roller skating guy, cut him loose when they were out in the Arctic. They all think he's the Thing, but he knows he's not the Thing, so he kind of like forces everybody else into a situation where they have to like give their blood. It's because he's holding them hostage with
thermite charges and stuff.
Thermite charges, yeah. He's like,
I'll blow this fucking camp up.
This is kind of the scene that clears up a lot of the ambiguous nature of like who's what.
It kind of like it's a slow, like we've created all this tension. It's time to release a little bit of it, and like we get like this nice slow burn of like going through each character because we got like 2 dead characters. The guy that's got his arms cut off, and
Clark
because he kills Clark because Clark tries to stab Kurt Russell's character McCready because McCready's convinced that like he's the Thing or something.
I think it's nice that they include like human on human kills in this because it kind of like amps up the
tension,
the stakes, the tension.
They say like now now you're a murderer. How does that feel?
It only happens because the mistrust. Even Wilford Brimley tells Kurt Russell, "Watch Clark. He's like the key, like the prime suspect."
Yeah, but
it turns out Clark ain't infected. Even Copper, the doc, is not infected. I don't know how that works because he's bitten by the Thing. And I thought maybe that'd be like a transfer of cells in some way. But maybe it has to absorb you with like tentacles and that weird liquid that it shoots, Dude, this scene's brilliant. He's giving everybody a blood test, cutting their thumb, putting their blood in like a petri dish.
Mm-hmm.
He knows that it'll react because each cell of the thing, like elements, like heat,
it
cold,
wants to stay alive.
Yeah.
Basically, it's like a survival tactic. Like it refuses basically destroying the cells. Like they put like a copper wire. He like cuts loose the insulation that insulates wire, and like so you just reveal like the metal. They get it like searing hot, and he puts the hot wire in the blood to see if the thing will react, because the blood is no longer blood, it's just the thing and an extension of the thing imitating the blood. So it goes through each character, like draws everybody's blood, and you have it's like either 3 or 4 characters tied to a couch, and one by one we get to see who is and who isn't. And also you think that like most of these characters by now are the thing, because the movie has like given you reasonable doubt to assume that like, okay, maybe these characters are infected. It's really smart. It's a good way to like release this tension, because
it releases the tension, but then it builds it right back up at the end of the scene. I love how Carpenter does like reaction shots for everybody. You get these close-ups where everybody's reacting to being tied up, or like they're about to get their blood tested, and they kind of seem like even the people that aren't the thing are afraid of the test result because they don't know if the thing has them. Are they aware of it?
Yeah.
Like another kind of like question about the mythology of what the alien is itself.
They don't know, like it's like almost like a schizophrenic tendency, like, oh, am I infected or not? Like, yeah, it's smart as fuck. Even the characters are relieved to see that they're not the thing. It's like, okay, phew.
And I think the reveal of who is infected is kind of brilliant, because the movie is kind of directing your attention towards Gary, the Keystone Cop guy.
Yeah.
And he even makes a comment like, this doesn't prove anything. And Kurt Russell says like, yeah, I thought you'd feel that way.
Yeah.
That's why I'm going to do you last.
Yeah.
And that's when he tests Palmer's blood, and he's the infected. So like you get a jump scare here, but it kind of feels earned in a way.
Dude, him like shaking and like, oh, it's disgusting. And like
his like head's busting open, like his eyes turn white.
And blood, and like he like eats, what's the character's name? The hippie guy.
Windows.
Like grabs him by the head with his head that's like open cavity.
It splits open like a big like a jaw. Yeah.
And like he like takes him and he's like flailing him in the air with his head and shit. He's getting dragged around. The other 2 characters are like sitting on the couch like, let me the fuck loose. like they don't want to get infected, like because they're sitting there helpless. It's like it's so crazy, dude. And they burn him the fuck up. And then like what happens to Windows' character? Did like they kill him too?
They burn him up.
Yeah. Because does he start to change or something? I cannot remember.
He's making the noise that the thing makes, that weird Godzilla sound effect. I want to comment on when they burn up Palmer and he like runs through the wall of the building.
Yeah.
How thin are the walls of this fucking place?
Yeah.
They're in the middle of like sub-zero temperatures, and he just busts through.
Like all this, yeah.
This building has no insulation.
It's like a big wooden cabin,
basically.
But
funny. I do love the image of him running out on fire, and he's like trying to put himself out in the snow, and Kurt Russell comes out and he throws one of the sticks of thermite or dynamite.
Yeah, just
puts
him into pieces. Yeah,
it's great. It's a great cap off to a very slow building scene. This is like 10 or 15 minutes of them just talking, testing blood samples.
I wanted to say that one of our buddies, Nick, I talked to him about this at work, and he's like, yeah, it's one of my favorite horror movies. And he's like, I love this scene where he says,
I already know what you're going to say.
He's like, if it's convenient for you guys, I'd like to spend the rest of the winter not tied to this fucking chair. Like, it's so good.
The delivery of the line is excellent.
Oh, it's so good. It's good comedic relief. Great. It's perfect. Because you need to check a second to cool the fuck off.
Yeah.
You know?
I like how the comedic relief, like, it's there, but it doesn't undercut the tension.
Yeah, it's still in the context of the situation. It's not like
this guy's fed up. Like,
yeah,
I'm not the thing. Get me the fuck out of here.
Yeah, perfect. It's perfect. Well, they haven't given the blood test to Blair, right?
Yes.
And like he's the last character that they need that's alive that like they need to give the character a blood test. And they said they go back out to the shack and he's not there. This is where they established like we're gonna go out to give the blood test. If we're not back in 30 minutes or whatever, like if he comes back and we're not with him, torch him. And they go out there and like he's not in the shack. They like are examining the shack and like trying to figure out how he escaped. And they like notice the floorboards are like
kind of loose. Or not kinda. They straight up lift up. Yeah.
I want to know how there's a cave underneath.
Like it seems like something that would take
a minute.
Like you see like in prisoner movies where like an inmate escapes and they have to like use a spoon to crawl or to dig out a hole for like a year straight or something. I think my only explanation as to why this could be done is because the thing is not human. And like when it's not in the presence of other humans, it can probably, you know, have all those extra tentacles, appendages to dig.
That's true.
And like the cold
Something I
doesn't
didn't really think about.
The cold doesn't really affect it.
Mm-hmm.
My big question is who got the Blair? And I know that like we know for a fact at this point that it was either Palmer or Norris.
Yeah.
The only two known infected so far. They could have just gone out and like opened the door and infected him. I mean, like he was by himself. They could have chosen any time to do it.
They could have opened that little hatch in the door, you know? Got in there.
I think it gets a little goofy because they find like a half-built spaceship in the cave built from helicopter and tractor parts and like
that's a little goofy, yeah.
It's like it's science fiction, but it's a little dumb. Yeah.
One thing I liked about this scene in particular is the cinematography. This is like where I kind of really like stepped back from like the whole plot and like the tension that's been built. And they're kind of like going down with the flares. Like the flares have played a big part in the film. The way like the red lights up like the cool ice, like the blue ice, you know. I thought like them walking down into like the cave was like a really nice shot. I thought. And like this movie like isn't like some spectacular visual film. Like obviously like the practical effects are like super complex and intricate and like, you know, obviously the thing that's like the big visual spectacle, as off-putting as it is. Like there really isn't like these scenes of like artistic showcasing, you know. When it comes
No, not really.
When it comes to like a painterly like
I think the lighting shines more, and like you said, the flares against the ice kind of creates this like purple lighting effect on everything.
And like like in the generator room is like a good like horror movie type of cinematography. But yeah, they go down there and you know Blair isn't there. And I forget what happens after this. Do like they go back into the compound?
I think they decide that they have to destroy everything.
Yeah.
Because they know there's no way out. It becomes a suicide mission.
Yeah.
So they're like torching the entire building before they move down to those caves.
Is this what you mean by Kurt Russell's character kind of showcased in the end, where he's kind of like an all or nothing kind of guy? Like, explain that to me. Like, because you're talking about the chess.
I'll get to it.
Okay.
It plays more into the final confrontation with the thing itself.
Yeah.
And it's not really a deep, you know, like mind-blowing kind of thing. It's just like
it's something that I haven't noticed. But yeah, they've decided that they're gonna like torch the whole building. Like they start throwing like kerosene and like thermite charges into every room and start like setting the room on fire. Because like the thing has cut off the generator and now like, oh shit, we're all gonna freeze to death because there's no heat, right? Like, so how we're gonna stay alive is that we're gonna just burn the building.
Well, they don't discover the generator's gone until they go down there. But yes,
they cut the generator.
Even before they know that, they're blowing up the entire building. Yes, the next sequence of the movie, they go down to the caves, which like you don't see beforehand. You don't even know this exists. It's like a big ice cave in the basement of this facility.
Of pipes. Yeah.
And I kind of like the comedic relief where the Keystone Cop guy, Gary, I don't know why I keep calling him that.
Keystone.
It's like a really old school thing. He looks like a cop from like a 50s movie.
He looks like the cops out of Fargo. He just looks like a fucking white dude.
Exactly. I'm surprised he didn't, you know, hit up a You Betcha or something. He's investigating the generator area, and he says to McCready, like, the generator's gone. and Kurt Russell says, well, why don't, like, can we fix it? And like he turns around, he's like,
gone.
It's gone. Like it's removed.
Yeah.
I think this actually starts my least favorite 5 to 10 minutes of the movie.
Really?
If I have any complaints about it, it kind of starts right here.
One thing I did like about this scene, though, is that when the thing does actually take over the cop, this was a really good practical effect. Because he puts his fingers in his face, and like his skin and his fingers start mending together.
It looks good.
And he drags him
By the skin of his face.
By the skin that's hanging on. It's so good. It's such a good practical effect. That's one thing that I do miss about the CGI era that we live in. Like, I wish more stuff like this was implemented into film.
With practical effects, you're looking at something
that's tangible.
It takes me out of movies so often, looking at CG. You just know it's not there, and it doesn't have any impact on you.
Unless it's a movie like Avatar, where like the movie is built upon CG. Sometimes CGI can be like super distasteful and like really remove you from like that immersive quality.
I think this last few minutes, like the climax of the film, is kind of underwhelming to me because Gary gets taken by Wilford Brimley, and Knowles, the roller skating guy, he's the one guy that have the horror movie trope of walking away into the darkness without alerting MacReady what he's doing, where it's like obvious at this point. It should be more obvious at this point than any other point in the movie because he's seen everything that's happened. You stay together as a group. The thing won't reveal itself unless, you catch it and you corner it, and it has to show itself. He just walks away into the darkness, and you never see him die, but you assume he does. And it's like, damn, I kind of liked that guy. Why'd he do that? But that's not my only complaint. The show-off with the thing, it's like final form, at least what we see of the movie. I mean, like, obviously, after MacReady goes looking for Gary and Knowles, and, like, the floor starts to come up like an earthquake.
Oh, yeah. Almost like a tremor.
I was thinking Tremors. And, like, some of the special effects here are the most dated in the movie, where, like, they use some stop motion to show the tentacle come out of the ground. And it takes the TNT charge. Looks a little bad.
Yeah.
And, it's the one part of the movie where the special effects don't really work.
It's not like a tension-built scene or, like, a tension-built reveal. It's like, the monster's here.
It just kind of happens.
Yeah.
When the thing comes out of the ground and you see, like, it's gigantic now. And I'm assuming it split off into parts and like collected the humans,
the bodies and stuff. Yeah,
it's got all the dogs, the humans in it, and like it splits off into like there's dog heads coming out of it and eyes and tentacles, and you're like, this is about to be epic. And then MacReady just throws some dynamite at it and blows it up. And I'm like, I can't decide if like it taking my expectations and throwing out the window like that is cool, or if it was kind of lame. And I don't know how you felt about that part.
I think it's kind of lame because it's so removed from what the rest of the movie was kind of built upon as far as like the way the thing is revealed. It kind of feels like a cheap trick, Like kind of feels like a cheap monster movie type of reveal. And it's like,
it felt very B-movie-ish kind of.
I want what happened at the end of the film. I want something more subtle. I want...
It's good that scene is there at the end.
Yes.
But this right here is kind of lame.
Yeah. And, like, it's okay. Like, the rest of the movie, like, this happens so fast. Like, obviously,
it's like 2 minutes, maybe,
and I'm
of
like,
screen time.
When you watch this, like, I know for a fact I was riddled with anxiety. Like, I was at the point where, like, I couldn't ask more questions. I was just so caught up in, like, the spectacle and, like, the angst and adrenaline like driven through the movie. That, like, I really didn't have a lot of time to question this, but like now looking back on it, like while we're talking about it, the rest of the movie has been like a slow burn of like slight reveals and more questions, and this felt like a Godzilla or like just a weird turn for the film to take. Like, I don't think the thing should be like some big eventful monster. It should be like a subtle, parasitic, undetected kind of thing.
It should have came back as like a human, to trick Kurt Russell. Or something.
It should have been like, "Hey man, we gotta go this way" or something.
It definitely goes against everything the movie has been building up until this point.
Against the grain, for sure.
I think originally the plan was they were going to use stop motion to like make I don't want to say a battle scene, but more of a final scene than what we got. but like the limitations at the time and the budget kind of stopped them from doing that. And I'm not saying I wanted a big battle.
No.
Because I just complained about that at the beginning of this episode about it.
Yeah.
With the big battle against the clown spider at the end of that movie.
But it might have been better.
Maybe
rather than just
the 80s version, low budget of that probably would have been cooler. Like
it's like a foreplay, dude, before sex. It's like we can have foreplay and sex, or we can just have foreplay. It's like no, just no. Why the fuck would I just pick foreplay?
yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
It's just like, it's odd, man. I guess maybe you can open up some questions as if like, did one little stick of dynamite kill this thing? Like, is it still there? The main event is the last scene with Kurt Russell and Childs.
It's so weird, by the way. I wouldn't touch on this, but it's weird seeing him so young.
Oh, what's his name? Keith David.
Yeah. I'm so used to him like being like a voiceover actor and like seeing him as like an older man in the present day.
I always knew
so
him.
Weird to see him young.
I always knew him as he was the voice of the main gangster in the first Saints Row game. His voice is very distinguishable.
Yeah. It's like a powerful voice. It's so weird to see it come out of such a young man. It's like seeing a young Morgan Freeman type of deal. Like it doesn't, like that old wise voice doesn't make sense with the body that encompasses it.
I do love the last scene. Kurt Russell is like defeated. He's cold.
He's ready to die.
Everybody he's known has just died. He sits down in the snow. He's drinking his bottle of liquor. And Childs approaches him and they have a little standoff. Like, how do I know
that you're not the thing?
That you're not the thing. McCready makes a comment like, well, even if we have any surprises for each other, we're not in any shape to do anything about it. And he says, why don't we just wait here a while and see what happens. And then the movie pans out, and that's the end of it.
I think it's inferred that Childs is the thing.
I don't know.
Well, Kurt Russell is backlit in this scene from the fire behind him. And he's the only one that's breathing out. His breath is like freezing in the air. And Childs is not. And it's inferred like throughout the movie that the thing, while it may imitate, because it's like told in the autopsy and stuff, like they have human organs and stuff.
It may not be like perfect.
It might not be functional, you know. It's not like replicating the bodily functions, but it replicates the body parts type of deal. You can look at it a few ways. Like Kurt Russell could be the thing. You never know.
I kind of assume that neither of them are the thing.
But you don't get to see Childs for like the last 20 minutes of the movie until this last part. So it kind of comes at like a...
There's a big mystery as to where he's been. Like,
yeah,
why was he...
explosions and stuff.
Yeah. I was thinking the same thing. You can see his breath. I think it more has to do with like where they're shooting. The light on McCready is more prominent, so you can see the breath. Childs, not so much.
And you'd have to do that super carefully. Like, if they're in the cold weather while they're shooting this, like, you'd have to make sure that you couldn't see Child's breath. Like, you'd have to shoot this in like a warm climate, and like it would have to be a separate shot. So it's super complex as far as technically setting up the shot to like infer that Child's is the thing.
And Childs is still wearing an earring. Which,
yes. The thing doesn't copy inorganic matter.
And you could make a argument like, oh, well, the thing's smart, so it could just pick up the earring and like re-pierce it or something. But like,
yeah,
it's just, I think it's meant to
all
be
speculation. Yeah,
totally ambiguous. But that's what makes it work.
Yeah,
like, you know, 40 years layer,
people are still asking questions, man.
Yeah, you can still ask these questions. Who was the first infected? How did Blair get infected? The ending. It's all up in the air. You know,
it's so good. The movies that make you ask questions, but ask them in a way that's not like detrimental to the movie. It's done tastefully in a way that like it increases your enjoyment of a film. I really like this movie. Like, I am not a horror guy. I actually like shy away from them altogether. Like, if I'm watching a movie, that's the last genre on my list to watch. I'd rather watch fucking Gerard Butler's fucking London Has Fallen than I would watch.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
You don't want to subject yourself to that. White House Down.
Yeah. You know, just some stupid shit. I'd rather watch some stupid shit before I want to watch horror. But like, I thoroughly enjoyed this film. And it's good when like horror movies create mystery in a way that like it actually feels like it's worth something. Like, I know I talked about like stupid movies like Ouija, and like I know there's like good horror films like some people regard The Conjuring as like a good film.
I've heard that too. Yeah. Never seen it though.
I've seen the first one. It's okay. I'm just not a big fan of like paranormal stuff. I mean, I've seen the Paranormal Activity movies. They're fucking stupid.
I hate possession movies. The only one I've liked is Hereditary, honestly. And even that movie left me kind of puzzled.
I'm just not a big fan of like super disgusting, like distasteful shit. Like I'm afraid to watch Midsommar. I've talked about it a million times. And I talked to Trent about this. I told him, I said, I can't watch stuff like that because I know that the movie will sell me on the cult in a way and it will leave me. And I said, I cannot live with that knowledge. I cannot live with shit like that because I will sit there and like just, it will destroy my consciousness. It hurts me to like have knowledge like that to where it makes me ask questions.
You even made a comment a couple weeks ago before I even recommended the thing for the podcast. And you said, I can do a horror movie if it's fun.
Yeah.
I had never seen The Thing before, and I recommended it on a whim.
I was going to say that. I went to ask you. You didn't watch this before you
No, I'd never seen
recommended it.
I knew almost nothing about it.
Hell yeah.
And after I watched it,
You were like...
for the first time, like I knew I liked it, but I thought, man, Austin is going to fucking hate this movie. It is so disgusting. Like it's not fun. It's a feel-bad movie.
I disagree. I think it's actually fun.
Well, there's parts, but I think some of the disgusting stuff might outweigh it for certain audience members. Might not be able to look past that. And I thought you might be in that camp. I was like, damn it, Austin is going to be checked out. He's going to hate this shit.
No, because I think while it is super grotesque, I think the rest of the elements of the film work to the advantage of like the gore, like the
science fiction, the action, the character
mystery,
drama,
all these things. They help play a good role. Like
even
I want
the comedy.
Film. Yeah, exactly.
Even the comedy kind of works in this.
I don't want a film that like just grosses me out to gross me out. And like I mean I've talked to my father about this a few times, like when I was younger, but like I talked to him about the Saw films and stuff, and he said you can watch the first one, but the rest of them after that just get gross to be gross.
The first one's kind of all right, honestly.
And he said like some things are just gory to be gory for the gore factor. That's kind of like this movie. Like the movie doesn't just be gory to be gory; it actually serves a purpose towards the story. It's not like
it makes the mythology of the Thing more believable.
Exactly.
To me.
It's not distasteful, even though like it's super off-putting and grotesque, and like I have to turn away and not pay attention to it for a second, like just like make it through. Yeah. It's still like it serves a story, and it like yeah, man, I enjoyed the fuck out of it.
I'm glad. Man.
I'm not mad at you for recommending it. Like I'm glad I got to watch it. I would have never watched it by myself probably, and I think like going forward, I would probably watch another movie like this. Like it's not like I can stomach it. I just want to be like encapsulated and intrigued by a film. I just don't want to be like, I don't want it all to be like a showcase of like stupid bullshit.
It has to be a good script.
Exactly.
Which this movie has. Unless you have anything else to bring up. If you had to give it a rating, what would it be, Austin?
Like it's not masterful. Like I don't feel like it's some masterpiece. Like I don't think it's like some perfect horror film. Because, like, I'm not going to lie to you, some of the cheesy aspects of, like, the blowing up of, like, the burning of, like, thermite charges and stuff, it kind of feels cheesy. But, like, I can respect it.
Yeah.
It's, like, an 80s film. It kind of plays into, like, the action tropes they had during the 80s and stuff. So, it's not a big deal. I might not return to it for a while, for sure. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know if I want to put myself through that again. But, like, this would be, like, a movie I would be like, oh, you like horror movies? Have you ever seen The Thing? Like, I'm limited with horror movies and stuff.
Same.
I point somebody here, you know? Somebody that wants to watch, like, I don't know, something they need to cuddle up with their fucking partner and be, like, if their fucking girlfriend needs to cover their eyes, it's like, you can snuggle up in this chest, girl. It's not a big deal. You know, it's
the perfect Netflix and chill.
Oh, this is not a Netflix and chill, dude. Could you imagine fucking during penetration, your girlfriend looks over and sees a fucking dog's head splitting in half?
Yeah, there's no chilling on this movie.
That'll fucking dry up a pussy like the fucking Sahara Desert.
Why'd I know you were going to say that? For me, I really love this movie. And like you, I'm not a big horror guy. But I think this is one I'll return to. I even watched it over 3 times in the last 2 weeks, and every rewatch was more enjoyable than the last. And I think I'll rewatch it in years to come.
This is a good, like, October, Halloween, spooky season movie.
It might be one of those instant favorites. I can't say it. Like, I'm not going to say it's like top 5 movies of all time for me. Like, it's not there yet. You know, I just watched it.
It's a lot of fun, though, right? It's like a fun watch.
Yeah. And, like, even if I watch it a year from now, I'll still have those questions about the ending or, like, who got infected first. So for me, I'm going to give it like a 9 to 9.5 probably.
Really? Hell yeah.
With the right to reserve a 10 later on. Kind of like how I felt about The Lighthouse when I saw it. That movie, you know, perfect 10 now. Yeah. I've had some time to digest it.
Such a great film.
It might be one of those movies for me, you know, classic.
Yeah, no,
dude.
it definitely is a classic. I totally agree with you.
But yeah, dude, I absolutely loved it.
This was a lot of fun because, like I said, I never would have came around to watching this film.
So, Austin, I give you the floor to recommend what we're going to be watching or listening to next.
Well, I know you wouldn't have caught on by now, but I'm really going to throw you for a curveball here.
You don't say. I can never guess what you're going to do. You always throw me for a fucking curveball.
Well, speaking of curveballs, we're going to watch our first sports movie. I know you didn't notice because I'm always wearing a hat, but I'm wearing an Oakland Athletics hat right now. And I specifically wore this hat. I'm pulling an Alex Getter, David Bowie type of bullshit here.
Yeah.
Really leaning into it, you know. In the famous words of Brad Pitt, how can you not be romantic about baseball? You and I are going to watch Moneyball. I watched this movie before I watched The Thing this week. This movie's like 10 years old.
Was it the first time you've seen it?
No. I've seen this movie. That's probably like my third or fourth time watching it. I can't wait to like lean into this movie. It's like a sports movie, not about sports. It's all about math and like against the system, against the grain. It's a masterful film. It's a masterpiece in my opinion, and we'll get there when we watch it and talk about it. We haven't talked about a sports movie, even though this is like far from it in a way. Can't wait to like just lean into this film. This is something I've wanted to talk about for a while. Yeah, I can't wait, man. It's going to be hype.
So I saw this movie for the first time at the beginning of 2021, actually. I know it's been out for 10 years, and I really liked it. I'm not a big sports guy, but I really love stories that kind of focus on the outside, like the inner workings of like management and stuff. And like, I think I've said it on the podcast before, but I've been watching the show Ted Lasso, which is about like management of a soccer team. It's great. That kind of stuff I'm kind of a sucker for. It's got what, Brad Pitt, Jonah Hill,
Chris Pratt.
Yeah, it's
it's gonna be
who directs that?
Oh, I cannot remember his name off the top of my head. There's a lot we're going to talk about. Cinematography, soundtrack, story, plot. Like,
and it's based on a true story, so you can we can do research on what's happened since then.
Yeah.
And like kind of draw it into like the story itself.
I want to talk about this movie because I think it'll be right up our alley. I'm not a big sports movie guy. This film, it does everything that a sports movie is not really about and kind of creates more of a slice of life narrative that I think is a lot more powerful than like a team just winning kind of thing. Mm-hmm. It'll be a lot of fun to lean into. There's so much I want to talk about. I'm probably going to watch this movie like 3 or 4 times. I've already seen it once this week. I can't wait, man. It's going to be a good time.
I can't wait either, man.
We did the thing, dude. We did the thing on the podcast.
We did the damn thing.
Whew. That movie was so fucking disgusting. That was a lot of fun, though.
You'll have those images burn into your mind.
I cannot
maybe
think
forever.
I can't stop thinking about the furless dog, like in the kennel,
the heart popping open. Dude,
it's disgusting. All right, man. Well, that was a lot of fun. Sign these motherfuckers out.
Adios.